What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So we did have that Sony State of Play yesterday, and while it, for the most part, disappointed a lot of people online, we did still have a couple of big announcements in there, and we'll go over all of that here today. Also, we're going to be talking about that ridiculous game that we had mentioned yesterday with rumors flying around from WB, and now there's actual evidence of this game existing, as well as a downloadable character you won't believe. And we're also going to talk about a big demo that is now live that could work to propel us towards the end of Balan Wonderworld. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below and ring that notification bell so you can keep up to date with all of the uploads here on the channel. And we're going to start today with Grand Theft Auto, Dr. Dre, and Snoop Dogg. Now, there was an interview between Snoop Dogg and Rolling Stone where he talked about Dr. Dre doing music for an upcoming video game from Rockstar. We could see this over on the Rolling Stone webpage, where he says some of his music is connected to the GTA game that's coming out. So I think that will be the way that his music will be released through the GTA video game. Of course, Rolling Stone immediately reached out for comment from Rockstar and Dr. Dre. No one responded to the request for comment. Go figure there. But the thing with this, obviously, a lot of people are saying that's GTA 6, and it very well could be. I mean, we figure Grand Theft Auto 6 has been in development for quite some time now, and it's going to be a big deal when it finally gets announced. And we have seen music artists just kind of leak out games by accident. Remember the whole thing around the new Tony Hawk game? That was just talked about during a podcast from a musician who was providing music to Activision at the time. So I look at this and I say, yeah, it could be GTA 6, but remember, it could also just be an update to Grand Theft Auto Online, as they have like radio stations and all of this that plays music. So I'd like to say, yes, this is definitely GTA 6, because I'd like that to happen. I've seen enough of GTA 5 by now, but again, the other possibility is GTA Online. So I guess we'll find out what happens here as we head towards what's supposed to be a pretty substantial update for that online service from Rockstar. Also, we do know that WWE 2K22 is coming out next year, and I'm looking forward to how it turns out after what we had previously with 2K20, but something was spotted that's kind of expected at this point from 2K. We can see this over on Twitter, posted up by James, saying a WWE 2K CDN hosted by 2K Sports is publicly accessible and shows illustrations and 3D renders for VC, or I guess virtual currency, in a folder labeled 2K22/store. Purchase in WWE 2K22 look like they're heading the NBA route, with VC available in bulk up to 450,000, roughly worth $100. More in a video soon, so I guess check that out there. But I'm not too surprised that they would go this route. Remember, I think last time they had to come out and say there's no loot boxes in WWE, because we just expect that at this point from 2K. The thing that's a bit strange to me is they have a lot to prove with the WWE license now in video games after the disaster and mess that 2K20 was. I mean, we laughed about 2K18 in general on the Switch because clearly it just wasn't optimized. No, 2K20 on much more capable hardware was just outright broken, to the point where they had a split behind the scenes with developers and they had to take an entire year and a half off. So if they show up next year with loot boxes, virtual currency, all of that stuff, it's not exactly going to be a great look for a series that's trying to work its way back. But these were found on a server, so I assume they're going to be used, but I guess there's always a possibility that maybe they're for a future 2K or WWE 2K game later on after they prove themselves with 2K22. Oh, and we are expecting some news around backwards compatibility for the Xbox Series. Specifically, I'm thinking Xbox original titles, but it could be Xbox 360 games as well. And it appears that 2 games have been spotted by True Achievements that I assume are going to be announced next month during that anniversary live stream for the Xbox brand. We can see this over on their website, where they point out The First Templar and Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? Both titles, which were not backwards compatible games, now have their own Microsoft Store pages that are still live and list the titles as playable on Xbox Series X, S, and Xbox One consoles. Not exactly the headlining titles I would be expecting at a big anniversary live stream. However, I assume there are going to be many titles shown there, maybe a big list that they release, and that those are just part of it. Really, this would be a letdown, I would say, if they're like, oh yeah, you get The First Templar and Are you smarter than a 5th grader? So happy birthday to Xbox. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the Sony State of Play that aired yesterday afternoon, went for about 20 minutes or so, and it was indeed all third-party titles. The only issue, and why most people seem to be disappointed in it, is it wasn't anything massive. There was no Final Fantasy 16, for example. It was like smaller third-party games with a couple of at least standouts, I'll say. But we'll go over the list here and then talk about some of the bigger reveals. We'll start with Death First, Let It Die. This is a survival game show that appears to just be centered around multiplayer. It's like an arena fighting shooter style game. It's coming out next year on the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. Then we had We Are OFK, and what this appears to be, they tried to describe it as best they could. It looked like it was a game where you're going to go through essentially different episodes, and then at the end of the episode, they have one of their music tracks play. So that's coming out for PS4 and PS5. And then they had Big Snacks, which is a free Bug Snacks update coming out next year. That's pretty cool because Bug Snacks was part of PlayStation Plus, so there were a lot of people who just happened to download it at the time with their PS5, and really cool to see that there's just a big update coming out for it. And then we had a new Five Nights at Freddy's. That's Security Breach. It was gameplay that was shown off. It's coming out in December, and I have to say, I'm not really into the Five Nights at Freddy's stuff, but this seemed significantly more involved than what I have seen previously, which were, I guess, more point and click almost. I mean, I know the lore is the biggest thing that people are pulled into here, but this looked way more ambitious with the gameplay they showed, and people who enjoy the Five Nights at Freddy's stuff seem to really like it, so good news there. Death's Door. This is coming to PS4, PS5, and Switch November 23rd. You need to check this game out. It is very good. I'm happy to see it go to all these other platforms outside of Xbox and PC and everything, because more people should be checking this game out. It's a very good top-down isometric Legend of Zelda, think of like Link to the Past style gameplay, and it does have, as people say, like the Dark Souls elements. I know we attach that to everything now, but still, very, very good game, and I absolutely recommend checking it out when it releases next month. Kart Rider Drift is coming to specifically the PlayStation 4 in 2022. There's gonna be a closed beta they're gonna run on December 8th. I think this is already on like the Xbox and PC as like a free-to-play game. Then we have King of Fighters 15, and there will be an open beta test. They also showed off a couple of new characters here. The open beta test will be November 19th until November 22nd, so make sure you check out the PlayStation blog and on Twitter for the exact time so you can jump in there. They showed off First Class Trouble. This looks like an Among Us clone in 3D, so there's that. And they did close out with Little Devil Inside. Now, this is coming out 2022. This is a game that disappeared off like the face of the earth for the longest time, but it looks like they were indeed just working on the game, because what was shown here does look very unique. It started off innocent enough where it looked like your character was going away to a job on a train, and then all of a sudden, everything just goes completely left, and you're running away from like an entire furnace that's chasing you, and you're getting knocked into a pool with a massive octopus. And I'm still not exactly sure what's going on in this game, but I am intrigued, and yeah, I'll be looking forward to this one next year when it releases. And I would say the biggest reveal here in this entire presentation is a brand new Star Ocean, that being the Divine Force. It's coming out for PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series, and PC, that in 2022, and it is developed by, of course, Tri-Ace. They've been doing all the other Star Ocean, so why wouldn't they do this one with Square Enix? And Star Ocean has it's had a hard time recently with like Faithlessness, for example, and I hope this is the big breakout for Star Ocean. It's been on a decline. The one on the 360, for example, just wasn't very good. I enjoyed it because it's Star Ocean, and I have a soft spot for Star Ocean, to be honest. I want it to be a really good series, so whenever a new one comes out, I do pick it up and play through it, and generally, yeah, I'm pretty disappointed by what they've been giving us recently, so I'm hoping this new one is a game that, kind of like how we had Tales of Arise, where that was a big breakout for the Tales series. Maybe this new Star Ocean can do the same thing there. Also, I did notice that, once again, another Japanese RPG does not have a Switch version, and it is strange that this keeps happening so far into the Switch's life, but Who knows, maybe it'll just come down the road, or they're prepping that cloud version. But overall, looking at this state of play, it was pretty lackluster. There was no massive announcement. I guess the big one would be Star Ocean, but for the most part, all this presentation did was work to build my hopes up that we will get a really good Star Ocean game, and most likely it will just end up disappointing again. I guess we did find out about Death's Door going to other platforms, so that's a plus. Make sure you check that one out once again next month. Next up, let's talk about that ridiculous game from WB that's apparently codenamed or titled Multiverse. This is like that platform fighter like Smash Brothers, but they are throwing the most random characters together. This is where we talked about Tom and Jerry and Batman potentially duking it out. Well, we had a leak that showed a screenshot of the character select screen. I cannot show it to you because WB pulled this video down, which tells me it is correct. Let's head over here on Twitter, though, where we do at least have a list of the characters shown in that video. This posted up by Hungrybox, saying, "You thought I was lying, huh? Warner Bros. Multiverse character select screen. There seem to be levels and fighter type icons." As I'm looking down this tweet, by the way, I noticed that WB actually claimed and removed the image from Twitter, so there you go. I guess this is as legit as it gets now that WB is stepping in here. But we have Steven Universe, Adventure Time, Batman / Harley Quinn, Superman and Wonder Woman, Gandalf, Rick and Morty, Tom and Jerry, Bugs Bunny, and then just a new character, I guess, top left. Okay, so obviously a game like this is going to be getting DLC. That's what we figure, because there is also mention this could be a free-to-play game that I guess you just go in, you download, and then you buy additional characters if you would like them. So think to yourself, after hearing the most random characters, who would WB potentially put in this game to fight Superman and Harley Quinn and Tom and Jerry and Rick and Morty? You're probably not going to guess it, because it's LeBron James. Yeah, take a look at this from Nebellion, who went over Jeff Grubb's points over on Giant Bomb in his video, saying the source is, okay, it looks cheap, so I guess it could just have a smaller budget, but could be a free-to-play title. Future characters will be sold as DLC, and the first DLC fighter could be Warner Bros.' very own LeBron James. All right, why not? Look, I gotta buy this game now, right? Well, it's gonna be free-to-play, but I'd have to buy LeBron James because I'm having a hard time imagining that in my mind. All these characters in an arena duking it out like it's Smash Brothers. And I'm not expecting this game to be good at all, because it just sounds like they're trying to make it as ridiculous as possible to make you want to download it and then potentially buy different characters. But it's certainly getting a lot of attention because of how outlandish this entire thing sounds. But hey, I like outlandish. At least it's interesting. Next up, let's talk about a big demo that dropped on the Switch last night. We can see this tweet by Nintendo where they say, "Time to amp up the dread for an early Halloween treat. A demo for the critically acclaimed Metroid Dread releases now. Now everyone can try Samus's latest adventure by downloading the demo on the Nintendo Switch eShop." This is great news because there are people who looked at it and said, I don't know if I would like Metroid Dread, really. It's still a 2D game, and yeah, that's the biggest thing, is people see it as a 2D game and they're not sure if it's worth the money. So I like the idea of Nintendo putting a demo out there to try to convince people further to buy Metroid Dread. I mean, the game's awesome, so I feel like the reviews should be convince people as it is. At least convince 3,000,001 people that it's worth buying, but certainly the demo is something worth checking out if you have been at least curious about the game. And this information legitimately just dropped like an hour ago, so I haven't had a chance to check out the demo. I'm curious what part of the game they cut out for what could be a half-hour demo, an hour maybe. I mean, the game isn't exactly like a long game. You can get through it pretty quick if you know what you're doing, and even if you don't know what you're doing, it's still, I would say, like a 10 or 11-hour game at the most. So they'd have to be pretty careful choosing what would represent it the best, and that's kind of what I'm curious about right now. So maybe I will check out the demo just to see what they're showing here. But yeah, certainly check this one out. It's free to download. Might as well give it a shot. Who knows? You might really like it and then go on to pick it up so we can find out what happens at the end of Balan Wonderworld. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about that Nintendo 64 controller that was released alongside of the Nintendo Switch online service. Initially, they went up for sale on Nintendo's website and then immediately sold out, but recently they post them again, and I did manage to get one. So it's in transit, and I should be checking it out here in the next week or so. We'll do a tear it out and compare it to an original Nintendo 64 controller as well. But of course, when people got this controller, they started trying to use it on other systems outside of the Switch, like PC, Mac, or even Raspberry Pi, and they found some varying results. For example, you can see this tweet here from Family Home saying the N64 Nintendo Switch Online controller doesn't seem to respond correctly in OpenEMU at the moment, but it does work on other Mac emulators like 64, so hopefully it's something that can be fixed. Others tried it out with their Mac, for example, and they had some odd things take place when it came to the inputs being received, or even the dead zone for that analog stick. And I did notice, I think John over at Nintendo Life was trying it with different games. Even I think at Game Explain, they were trying it with things like Mario 64, and it was very close to working completely. But what was noticed is that you cannot remap the buttons for that controller on the Nintendo Switch. You can do this with certain things like the Pro controller, for example, but not this Nintendo 64 controller, which is unfortunate because then you could technically use that for anything. There was a picture John posted up with him using it with Final Fantasy VII and seemed illegal to me, but the picture's still up, so I guess it's fine there. But either way, when this controller does come in, I will be checking it out extensively. We'll unbox it, take it apart, and see exactly how close it is to that original. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, give State of Play a letter grade. 4% gave it an A, 6% gave it a B, 20% gave it a C, 17% gave it a D, and then 54% gave it an F. I was kind of getting that sentiment online that most people were going to vote either D or F here. Like, if Star Ocean was a big announcement for you, maybe you would have given it a C. I just didn't see a lot here that was very impactful for a lot of people, and most of the games, I'm sure most people were just gonna kind of walk right by, but still, it was at least a bunch of game announcements, some interesting looking things like Little Devil Inside, but I did enjoy at least seeing Star Ocean get announced, so I kind of moved mine up at least to a D. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Meta saying it was already bad enough that the N64 emulations on the Wii U's Virtual Console were terrible, dark filters, awful input lags, bad sound mixing, etc. They somehow managed to make the N64 games even worse on Nintendo Switch Online. Like, how is that even possible? I did see some comparisons to the Wii U, and in some ways, the Wii U emulation is actually worse than Nintendo Switch Online. The thing that gets me, though, is you would expect a substantial improvement going from the Wii U to the Switch just based on the revenue that the Switch is generating and obviously the user base and install size. You feel like Nintendo would be thinking, okay, we're gonna raise the price to $50 for this subscription, so we have to bring our A game with the emulation. We have to try to be as true to form with these games, and it just seems all over the place. It almost feels rushed to a degree. Like the fact that you can't remap the buttons right then and there in the menu when you pause it and suspend it and all that, it's weird. No controller pack support, so win back, you can't even save. You had to just do the suspend points throughout. Again, a lot of strange decisions that just feel like they had to get this thing out there, and they'll hopefully fix them later. It's Nintendo Switch Online, so I'm saying hopefully fix them later. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here. Today was the Sony State of Play. Let me know what you thought about it, and I guess what your favorite and least favorite announcement was. Also, what about that WB Multiverse game? Who are you gonna main on the roster? And then the Metroid Dread demo. Are you gonna download it, check it out, and potentially lead us to victory with over 3 million units sold and get Sean to play Balan Wonderworld? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.